Aloha, my name is Mike Story from Hawaii Health at Work Alliance, a UHA company. Heather Pierucki is a mental health counselor, and today she is here to share how we build practices to keep us well during this unique time in our lives. We hope you enjoy.
Hi everyone, I'm Heather Pierucki, licensed mental health counselor in the state of Hawaii. Today we are talking about wellness. And in this sort of interesting time in our community, we've been having a lot of discussions about how to stay well when you're engaged in this temporary new version of normal. And so today's discussion is really intended to be a discussion with yourself. It's intended to make you think about, am I well? Do I feel well? Do I engage in things that help me feel well on a regular basis? And so today is intended to be a discussion on what is wellness and how do we determine whether or not we feel well? How do we create a plan of wellness and how do we engage in that plan? And then how do we stay accountable to that plan? If we can stay accountable to a plan of wellness and implement the steps and the strategies to feel well overall, we'll most likely end up feeling like a better version of ourselves. And so today's discussion is intended to be dynamic, kind of tricky when you're doing a webinar presentation, but for today's intents, let's have a conversation with ourselves about how we feel well. The first thing that we want to do is define what wellness is. And for the purposes of today's discussion, we're probably not going to talk a whole lot about what wellness isn't. First of all, that's super subjective. And what one person does to stay well is not going to be the same as what someone else does to stay well. So today's discussion is really going to be a general overview of how you identify what feels like wellness for you, and then how you implement a plan around that. Furthermore, how you stay accountable to that plan. And anyone who's started a new fitness workout, a new I'm going to eat healthy for the rest of my life plan, you know that sometimes it takes a little extra push to stay accountable. So for today's discussion, we are going to define wellness. We're going to talk about what it is. We're going to set an intention to be open-minded around where we may not feel well. And then we're going to talk about 3 ways that you can design, implement, and become accountable to a wellness plan. It's not intended to be an exhaustive discussion around how to be well, but it is intended to give you an idea of what are some of the things that I should be looking at to determine whether or not I feel well in my life. So first, let's have a discussion about what wellness is. All the definitions through all the research that I've done around wellness have been that it's an interactive and dynamic, active process in which you pursue ways to feel well internally and externally. And most of the research that I found centered around 7 dimensions. There's your physical wellness, your emotional wellness, intellectual, so how well you feel sort of educationally, spiritual, environmental, and occupational. So as you can see, when we invite and open up discussions around wellness, there's a lot of different aspects that we need to cover. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to tackle all of these things all at once. However, it does give you some sort of direction in which you can explore a little bit about which one feels like it's the easiest to tackle. And maybe I sort of take a little bit off the top and, I'm already walking 30 minutes a day, so maybe I'll try running. Or I'm already swimming every single day, so maybe I'll add a little bit of weights to that, and that will help with my physical wellness. Didn't really feel like it took much to implement. Maybe you want to tackle the toughest one first, because if you tackle the toughest one, it'll feel like the rest of them are a piece of cake. Try not to tackle all of them at once. Just consider which areas of your sort of holistic life may feel like they're a little bit out of place. For most of us, just stereotypically, tackling our physical health is one of the easier things to do initially, but then can become much more burdensome when we try to implement it long term, because the workout gets boring or the eating healthy gets uninteresting and we want to try something else. So for a lot of us, the physical aspect is the easiest to start with. I want to assure you too that wellness is an active process. It's not something that is just simply the absence of feeling bad. When we start to explore what it looks like for us to feel well in our own selves and our own bodies, it's really such a personal, individual intention. And so today, I'd really like to encourage you to have a conversation with yourself. What are some of the ways that I engage in my own life that help me feel good about myself? What are some of the things that bring me joy? Some of the things that create happiness like that? If it's walking around the block with your dogs, fantastic. Maybe you do that once or twice a day and it gives you the opportunity to sort of take a step back. But let's start with the first of 3 things that we're going to talk about today. Step 1, be responsible. In being responsible, there's 2 major things that you want to consider. 1, communication. If your responsibility and your contribution to feeling well in your overall life is tough at home, over communicate with the people that you're responsible to. Tell them how your day is going. Tell them how the projects that you're working on are going. Tell them the difficulties that you're having with answering 1,000 emails a day when it used to be 500 emails a day. Take the time to over communicate with your team, over communicate with your boss, over communicate with the people that you're responsible to. Because the more responsive you are, the more accountable you are to the things that you've agreed to. So one of the ways that we want to help ourselves stay well is to be responsible and accountable to the people that we are obligated to. So let's say during this time you've actually been furloughed. The one thing that you can control is how you spend your time. So in this time, being responsible for you guys is doing the 1 thing or 2 things a day that you really don't want to do. That might be checking the unemployment website. That might be scouring for local jobs that you can do temporarily. That might be doing a project around your house that you thought you were going to do 6 months ago. So the first step in creating a wellness plan is to be responsible. Be responsible to yourself, be accountable to yourself, and be responsible to the people that you're obligated to. If that's your boss, over communicate. If that's your partner or your spouse or yourself, over communicate. Let people know how you're doing, what you're working on, and what you're engaged in. And that way, when the temporary new normal is shifted back to or forward to the new version of normal as we sort of come out of this pandemic, you will know that you did everything you could to be a responsible, accountable human to your team. The second step for our wellness journey is prioritize. Be receptive, be respectful, understand the things that need to get done and maybe the things that can wait. So let's say you're a parent working at home because you've been told to telecommute or to telecommute, and your kids are home from school. Well, the way that you prioritize the things that you do at home are not going to be the same that you prioritized 6 weeks ago. And so you're gonna have to figure out where your boundaries are. So maybe everybody in the morning spends an hour cleaning up the house because mom or dad doesn't have time to do that in the morning because they're trying to work at home and help their kids with school and help take care of aging parents and help walk the pets, things like that. So the number 1 thing that you can do for step 2 is prioritize your needs. If work is urgent, then take care of your work first. Maybe it's a to-do list. Maybe it's first I'll take care of this, then I'll feed my kids. Got to take a look at all the things that need to get done in one day and how you'll prioritize those things so that each of them can get done in the order that's necessary. So, step 1, be responsible and be responsive. Step 2, prioritize. Try to let some things go by the wayside that don't necessarily need to get done. Maybe the grass doesn't need to get cut today. Maybe it can wait until next week. Maybe one of your kids is old enough and they can go mow the lawn and parent can work. Just depends on your household and it depends on your ability to be able to dictate how things get done. So number 1, be responsible and be responsive. Number 2, prioritize your needs. The third and sometimes most difficult wellness regime is to be resilient. This is a super interesting time in our community and a lot of us don't know the answers. We're really just trying to do the best that we can with what we have. And so if we're being responsible and we're prioritizing our time, which by the way sounds simple but can be tricky, the best thing that we can do is be resilient and follow through with that plan. And maybe sometimes following through with that plan means moving one or two things to the next day. So as you go along and you determine the things that are the most important for you to do right now, let's really focus on how am I going to dig my heels in a little bit deeper and follow through on the things that I said I was going to do that are helping me feel well. So as you're responsive and as you're prioritizing the needs of yourself, your kids, your family, and your employer, be resilient. This will not last forever. We may come out in a new version of normal, but right now, the best thing that you can do is honor the needs that you have. Set your guidelines, set your task list, make the design of your day, and then follow through with that the best that you can. The key to staying sane in times of crisis is to understand what needs to be done and how you might get away with doing that. So maybe it's one day you partner off with your spouse and one of you manages school time and one of you gets to do really dedicated work time. Maybe it's that you send your kids outside to play for 2 hours so that you can engage in a meeting. Maybe it's the kids watch TV for 2 hours because you have something really important that has to get done. Not everything needs to be perfect right now in this particular time. So be very careful and be very self-aware around the things that are necessities and the things that are wants. As you start to design your wellness journey, I'm going to give you a couple of options, maybe some things that you can implement today that you might carry on into the new normal. Step 1, get outside. The great thing about living in Hawaii is that we almost always have sunshine, and sunshine has an immense amount of wellness benefits. There's all kinds of vitamins, all kinds of wonderful healing powers that come from the sun. So get outside. Spend 20 minutes walking around your neighborhood. Drive to the park and walk around the perimeter while you can. Maybe you walk next to the beach because the ocean brings you some joy. Maybe you get together with one of your neighbors and you walk the block together. Getting outside is one of the easiest, simplest, and cheapest ways to be able to engage in our own wellness. Number 2, find an activity that you enjoy doing and then do that intentionally. So this actually begs into the conversations that we have about gratitude. Gratitude is an incredibly powerful practice that can help you get in touch with yourself, your needs, the things that maybe you're glossing over day to day that really do bring you joy. Coming up with 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for every single day is an incredibly powerful practice in shifting away from the negative and bringing more positivity into your day to day. So for step 2, in terms of designing a wellness plan, do something that you enjoy and be intentional about it. For me, that's journaling. I love to sit for 5 to 10 minutes a day and just get whatever is in my head out onto paper. Because once it's onto the paper, I no longer have to worry about it. It no longer needs to be my responsibility. Oftentimes with my journaling, I end up coming up with a couple of things about gratitude as well, but that's my process. So whatever your process is, that's totally up to you. The third one, meditation. I know we talk a lot about meditation and it's almost in some ways becoming a buzzword, but meditation really is an active, intentional practice to give your brain some space to breathe. So some people use prayer as their meditative practice. Some people meditate while they're running or walking. It's incredibly personal for everyone, but my number one encouragement to you as you design a wellness regime is to give yourself 5 to 10 minutes a day to either sit and take some super deep breaths, allow that breath to be super cleansing all the way into your belly, and then to go all the way out your nose, because what it does is it affords your brain an opportunity to take a break, get some space, clear the air, have some cleansing. If you struggle with meditation without some guidance, there's a couple of apps out there like Headspace or Calm that are free and offer 5 or 10 minute guided meditations. And maybe that's the first stepping stone into you developing a meditation practice of your own. So between those three things, I hope that you found something that sounds attractive enough to you that you might want to implement it. And I will personally guarantee, it doesn't come with any monetary guarantees on the other side, but I will personally guarantee that if you try 1, 2, or all of these things, you will start to have a clearer mind about the vision that you have for your future. And you'll start to feel physically, mentally, emotionally, environmentally well. Because really at the end of the day, the more well that we feel, the more well that we are. And I know that sounds simple and it sounds obvious, but if we go to work every morning and we're burnt out and we're not sure how to balance our time and we're not sure what we're doing with our day-to-day and we feel chaotic and stressful, that's the you that you're bringing to your workplace. And so the more that we can create an environment of, wow, I feel a little bit calmer, or wow, I feel a little bit more patient, the more that we can bring the best version of ourselves to our workplace, to our spouses or partners, to our friends, to our kids, to our colleagues. At the end of the day, you're the one that you're stuck with. And the more intentional you are about putting your mask on first and giving yourself the tools and the skills and the habits and the routine that make you well, the more effective you're going to be for your community, for your family, for yourself. So be resilient, develop a good habit, and let us know if you have any questions. Hope you have a great day.
Hawai'i Health at Work Alliance, a UHA company, would like to thank you for watching this edition of our Work Well video series. For more information about Heather Pierucki and ChangeWorks Hawaii, please email heather@changeworkshawaii.com. To access more WorkWell videos and expert information about workplace wellness, please visit hhawa.com.